Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be another cheer knowledge video, and today we're talking all about recovery. So I hope you're feeling good today, but for me, man, my legs are sore. And that's pretty typical after a big workout. If you want to know exactly why my legs are sore, go check out the legs and cardio intensive workout on the channel. That will clue you in as to why I'm hurting today. But anyway, recovery is something that should be part of your whole sphere of thinking as an athlete. You can't just train and train and train and expect your body to just deal with that constant stress. So recovery is something we should all be considering to help us be the best possible athlete we can be. Your body's number one tool for recovering is an obvious one. It's sleep. That's when you recover. That's when you recover the most easily. It's when your body does most of its repair work. So that's where you've got to start. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting to bed early? There's a lot of stuff out there on what's called sleep hygiene these days. Avoiding using devices before you go to bed, and all of that stuff you can look into. But at its barest level, are you getting enough hours of sleep? That's an individual thing. Some people need more, some people need less. If your activity level is higher, a lot of the time you need that little bit more sleep. So that's the first thing to consider. If you've had a hard training session or a hard week of training, how much extra sleep are you going to need to deal with that? And are you getting to bed early? And that kind of thing, if you're not able to stay in bed late, whichever is your preference. So that's the first thing to consider for sure, is sleep. So the next thing we're going to look at is more active recovery. What can we do to help our body get through that phase where we're hurting or sore or anything else and be in peak condition the next time we need to train? Well, one of my favorite experts in this area is Dr. Kelly Starrett from How to Be a Supple Leopard. If you're interested, definitely look up his stuff. He has a ton of great material on YouTube that I watch just about daily with incredible, I mean, he's just an amazing mind in this field. But one of his most simple takeaway points that I think is just easy to understand when we're talking about whether it's a specific injury or we're just talking about general soreness in our muscles, is understanding what your body needs to do to recover from that. Now, he talks about getting the groceries in and the garbage out, which I just think is a really elegant way of putting it. For your body to help a muscle recover, let's say you've got a sore muscle in your leg, for that muscle to recover, you've got to be able to get the waste products out that you've created by putting stress on that muscle when you're working out, and you've got to be able to get all the good stuff in that will help it recover, the nutrients it needs and everything else to rebuild. So to understand the systems that do that is really, really important. Now, getting the groceries in is all about blood. It's your blood that brings in all those new nutrients. We understand that. So when we're talking about getting the groceries in, we're talking about increasing blood flow. And we can do that in a few different ways. And the other thing is getting the garbage out, getting rid of those waste products from our muscle tissue that are created when we put the muscle under stress and it starts to break down. Those systems that do that aren't active, they're passive systems. So to get those waste products to drain out, we've got to move that muscle. And that's where active recovery comes in. We're moving those muscles and manipulating them to get those waste products out. And once the waste is out, there's room for the blood to come in and bring in all the good stuff that will help us recover. So that's what active recovery is about. And there's a few different ways we're going to look at that you can move and engage your body to help that process. So of course the simplest answer is just move. Do some activity, go for a walk, anything that's low impact and isn't going to stress those muscles, but is going to engage them and get them moving. That in itself will just help get things moving along and get all those waste products going out. A lot of people's go-to would be stretching, which is great. Taking your muscle through their range of motion, as you would, going through stretching and basic things is a good approach to that. We have to be careful that we're not overstretching. If you've already got a damaged muscle or a sore, tight muscle, excessive stretching on that is not going to be good for it. So it's about stretching in terms of taking your muscle to its full range of motion, but not trying to stretch for flexibility and extend that range of motion. Limited amount of stretching, short amount of time holding, perhaps more focusing on dynamic stretching, where you're just moving through a range of motion. So I could come up to something as simple as a lunge right now, and feel it in this back leg, and just move through, in and out of that lunge motion. That feels great, just waking the front of that leg up. That's really sore for me right now, but I wouldn't want to sit here and really work for ages on trying to improve and extend the stretch in the front of that leg. That's going to be counterproductive. So that kind of dynamic stretching is a great answer, but maybe not extended static stretching. Some of the other tools we've got: foam roller, one of my absolute favorites. I find it super relaxing, just rolling my muscles out. I know a lot of people know this well and enjoy using that. Great for the legs, great for the back, great for just about every part of the body, to be honest, that you can get to with it. And now we're getting into what's called myofascial release. So myo meaning muscle, fascia being your connective tissue, and release obviously just loosening those things up. What we're really doing is giving ourselves a massage. It's as simple as that. So, you know, pro athletes will have professional massages after games and on a regular basis and things. We don't have the resources to do that. It's basically a way of just massaging our own muscles. So that's a great option to go to. I like it a lot of the time before activity, if I'm feeling particularly tight, but also great day after, to just loosen up those muscles that have tensed up, especially if they've tensed up overnight while you've been sleeping and that kind of thing. So that's a good way to do it. You can also, one of my other favorite tools is this, a lacrosse ball. A tennis ball can work equally well. A golf ball, pretty hard, but for some applications really good. But the lacrosse ball, you can pick these up for about a couple of pounds on Amazon. They're not very expensive, and it's just a really good fit. So you can get this into a lot of really tight areas. So if your shoulder feels tight, you can really get that into that shoulder joint and work it around. It's a really good way to hit those connections between muscles where you might find knots and everything else, and the same in your back. If you feel like you've got a knot or a tightness, you can really target it really well with the lacrosse ball. That's absolutely one of my favorite. And also a great tip, if your feet get tight, a lot of time my feet get tight from running, but it can be the same for a lot of people. If you get tightness in the bottom of your feet, put your foot on there and roll it around. That feels good already. Great way to loosen up the face of your muscles. So that's myofascial release, foam roller, lacrosse ball, great tools to use for recovery. I want to take you through one of my favorite recovery type stretches real quick. Uses the foam roller but in a slightly different way. For me, my hips get quite tight a lot of the time, and that's pretty common for cheerleaders. We've got a lot of that squatting and pressing movement from the legs. Your hips and your shoulders in particular, because they're super mobile joints, tend to accumulate a lot of tension if you're doing a lot of activity. So those are two areas that you might find really good to focus on to get good recovery. So this stretch, and it is a stretch, we're going to use gravity to do the work. So what I'm going to do is actually put the foam roller right underneath, like right on my tailbone, right at belt level. So slide that into there. Yeah, right under my tailbone there. I'm going to bring my shoulders back onto the floor, legs out straight. So just this in itself is opening my body up a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is bring one leg up, bring my knee up to my chest, and then grab that knee in. And my bottom leg then starts to lift off the floor as I hug this knee in and just let gravity kind of pull this foot back down towards the floor. And if I sit here long enough, it'll probably actually get there. So hold that for a little bit, and then switching over so I can bring both knees in, grab the other one, extend that leg out, and I can feel that stretch in the back of this leg and the front of this leg. Just feel that opening up. And then roll back off. One of my favorite stretches for the hips, a really good one for sure. Try that one out. Another one of my favorite tools are these stretch bands. These are pretty solid rubber bands that come in all different kinds. And these again can be great for just working some movements and dynamic stretching. The hard thing sometimes with using these at home is anchoring them properly. You obviously want them attached to something solid that's not going to fly at you when you attach to it. So what I found, I have these over door hooks, which I don't know, probably came from IKEA or something, and they're pretty good. They attach pretty well. I can take the band around here, and that should be pretty solid if I use that. So a lot of my favorite stretches, these are great for shoulder stretching. Put my arm in here and maybe just come down, the band behind, and then I can work against that resistance to just open my shoulders up if they're kind of tight. I can do the same the other way round. Turn around here and take it over the body. Starts to work right down that side, and I can just lean against it, let the band pull me back. So again, I'm not doing that sustained stretching where I'm holding and trying to extend and get more flexible. Just waking that movement up. And even just from doing that for a few seconds, like this arm feels looser than this one. I already feel like I've loosened that up. So bands are a great tool you can use as well. And the last super simple thing to consider that everybody should be thinking about is nutrition and hydration. Obviously, if you're burning a lot of fuel, your body needs refueling. So you've got to get the right macronutrients in. So that's your carbs, fats, and proteins, without getting into a ton of dietetics and nutrition. And you also your micronutrients as well. All of those vitamins and minerals. So eat your greens. All those vitamins and minerals help rebuild your muscles and everything else after activity. Super important that you're eating healthily, that you're eating enough, and hydration as well. Drinking enough water before activity so that you don't cause excess damage. Putting enough back into your body afterwards will really help with things like fatigue. One of the leading reasons that people get tired in the middle of the day is actually dehydration, and a lot of people don't know that. But that can be a really important thing. So making sure you're hydrated, for instance, before practice can actually really help with your alertness and your readiness to perform there. So two things that you really need to consider with everything. And there are other things we could go into with recovery, a lot of them quite technical and high-end. You know, we could talk about cryotherapy and all that kind of thing, but it's not necessary on a day-to-day basis. We want our muscles to be a little less sore and give ourselves the best possible chance to be ready to perform again the next time we need to. Take care of your sleep, take care of your nutrition and hydration, and take care of some basic movement, stretching, self-massage type techniques. You'll be ready to go. But just make it a part of your routine. It shouldn't be just train, rest. That's not doing the most you can to be the best athlete you can. So think seriously about what you can do to recover better, and it'll make you a better cheerleader. See you in the next one.